Hello, Walking the Ropes fans. I am Blake, and welcome to the next episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review for AEW Rampage from Rochester, New York. And before we get into the Rampage review, as always, we're going to quickly run down the results of Elevation and Dark from this week. But before all of that, make sure to check out the Walking the Ropes link tree for all things Walking the Ropes. For Dark Elevation this week, we had Thunder Rosa defeating Kyla Sparks. For the next match, it was The Dark Order, John Silver, 10, Alan 5 Angels, and Alex Reynolds, defeating Dean Alexander, Kevin Tibbs, TJ Crawford, and Eric James. And then we had in the main event, Paul White defeating CPA, RSP, and VSK. I guess he had a vendetta against the three-letter guys. For Dark this week, we had Thunder Rosa defeating Nikita Knight. Private Party defeated Charlie Bravo and JDX. Keep him away from Paul White. Kiara Hogan defeated Layla Gray. Dark Order's 10 defeated Brandon Gore. Cesar Bononi and Adrian Jode defeated Jake St. Patrick and Ryzen. Lance Archer defeated Arjing Singh. Ricky Starks with Hook defeated Darius Lockhart. Dark Order's Evil Uno and Stu Grayson defeated Adrian Elenas and Liam Gray. Julia Hart with the Varsity Blondes defeated Rekka Tekka. Bear Country defeated Jameson Ryan and Brick Aldridge. Matt Seidel and Dante Martin defeated QT Marshall and Aaron Solo in the main event. And now, for Rampage for this week, we had to open the show a singles match between Bryan Danielson and Nick Jackson. And these two look like they are ready to put on one hell of a match. They couldn't have more different styles. Bryan is more of a mat-based wrestler with great striking ability, and Nick is more of the high-flying and athletic type. Nick uses this ability and flips around the ring to avoid being attacked, and he ends up paying for it as Bryan dives on him to the outside and starts to wear on Nick back in the ring. Bryan is in firm control, tossing Nick around the ring and not giving him any space. If Nick gets out of one hold, then Bryan changes to another one. Nick starts to use his athletic ability and tosses Bryan around the ring, creating space needed to distract the ref so Matt can spear Bryan outside the ring. And then the Bucks, they're really good at using each other even when in singles action. Nick even resorts to using the yes kicks here, but Bryan absorbs them and just starts to ask for more, basically, and then just gets up and spits in Nick's face. And Bryan looks like he just wants to hurt Nick now with the big kicks and knees, but Bryan comes out of nowhere with a super kick. Nick comes out of nowhere with a super kick, not Bryan. These two begin to brawl on the apron, and Nick drops Bryan on his head and hits a big dive to the outside. But Bryan just doesn't give up here. He avoids a big kick, and Nick kicks Brandon right in the face, and then deals with Matt afterwards. Bryan does. Allowing Bryan to then lock in. They called it the cattle mutilation for the win. And Bryan Danielson defeats Nick Jackson. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 4 out of 5. It was a really, really solid match. These two put on what I pretty much expected. It's really building towards another Kenny versus Bryan for the title match. After the match, the Elite makes their way to the ring, and Jurassic Express with Christian Cage come out to make the save. And the two teams brawl, and Jungle Boy locks in the snare trap on Adam Cole, and Kenny comes in to try to stop them, but Bryan locks in the label lock on, and Kenny and Adam tap out in the middle of the ring. Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook come up on the Jumbotron for they say Ricky Starks has a message for Brian Cage. And Ricky says that he doesn't think just because Cage is bigger, it doesn't mean he can beat anyone. We then get CM Punk talking about what gave him the win against Hobbs. He says it's experience, and now it's time for him to really prove himself. We then get a no DQ 3-way match. Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose versus Thunder Rosa. And these women appear to have a genuine hatred for each other. They're now in a position to tear each other apart in this 3-way match. Rosa appears to have her work cut out for her as the two big women go right at her. But she uses her speed to deal with Jade quickly and then moves on to Nyla. But you can only get you so far. Nyla does slam her to the mat and turns her attention to Jade. Rosa then picks her spots and lets the two big women brawl and starts to beat on her opponents, hitting a drop kick into a garbage can onto Jade. And Nyla and then Rosa fight alongside the apron, and Nyla takes them up to the top rope, where Rosa then slips out, hits a powerbomb through the table to the outside, and while this is happening, Jade is handed a chair from Smart Mark Sterling, and hits Rosa with it as she's trying to bring Nyla into the ring. And then Jade just proceeds to beat on Rosa with the chair mercilessly for the win. Jade Cargill defeats Thunder Rosa and Nyla Rose. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 3.75 out of 5. It was a solid match, honestly. They really looked like they were going to tear each other apart, and I think there might be more from them here in the future. Malachi Black then talks about what he did to Cody and says he hopes it eats away at Cody and it eats him alive. Talks about the Nightmare family, and it appears he's moving on to some other challenge. He didn't say anyone specific, but he basically just said he's leaving the Nightmare family where they are. Sammy Guevara then talks about his challengers and says Bobby Fish is first. And that was, of course, if you watched Roads to the Top after Dynamite this week, that was, of course, mentioned in his commercial promo. We then get Mark Henry talking to the main event participants, and Matt says this was all Jack Evans' idea, and that basically Evans is the one that brought the shears out the first time, and that he's going to be the one to do it and finish the job. Orange asks what this match is, and he gets told, and he's like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to lose then. Pardon me. For the hair versus hair main event match, Orange Cassidy versus Jack Evans with Matt Hardy. And I'll be honest, this match stipulation kind of came out of nowhere and is a little bit odd, as Orange Cassidy himself doesn't have long hair, which is typically the reason we do these kinds of matches. Either way, we obviously had the Battle of the Billionaires, but there was specific, their hair was kind of part of their icon. This just, it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, but it's all right. It seems to have worked pretty well, honestly. I've been enjoying what the Hardy Family Office has been doing. I really like Matt Hardy and the fact that he's using his guys for matches that he definitely doesn't want to be a part of, but he's starting the problem with anyways and causes basically this match to happen and then just hands it off to one of his boys. Orange and Evans start going back and forth, and Orange tosses him around the ring by his hair. And Evans and Matt seem to have a plan where basically whenever Evans can knock Orange out of the ring, he's going to distract the ref and beat on, Matt will then beat on Orange. And then Orange is outside the ring, and Evans is able to hit the 450 splash, and then Evans is just wearing down Orange Cassidy at this point, and Orange gets these random bursts of energy, but it's quickly stomped out, or I guess I should say kicked out by Evans, because more often than not, it was just a kick straight to the head that would stop him. But once again, Matt beats on Orange as Evans is distracting the ref, and the HFO has a plan, and they are just executing it. Orange, on the other hand, has figured out that the plan is Matt Hardy's just going to beat on him, so when he gets the opportunity to, instead of hitting a dive on Evans first, he hits Matt and then goes and hits Evans, followed by a crossbody in the ring, and they exchange a flurry of moves, with Evans hitting a standing Skywalker twist for a near fall. He goes up to the top rope for a Sky Twister press, but Orange moves, hits a DDT and a diving DDT, and this causes Matt to call out the Butcher and the Blade and Bunny, but Orange has backup. The best friends block their way. They seem to have come out of the fans. Hardy calls out the rest of the HFO, and the Dark Order comes out, and we can kind of see them come from the side of the entrance ramp, which is kind of neat. It shows that they're coming out from different parts of the arena. It's awesome. So they block the entrance ramp from the HFO, and in the ring, Orange Cassidy hits Orange Punch for the win. Orange Cassidy defeats Jack Evans. For my Malteser scale, I gave this a 4.25 out of 5. It's really showing that the Dark Order is back together again, as well as the fact that this was just a really fun match, honestly. After the match, Hardy contemplates trying to save Evans. He sends in a couple of guys, but they are quickly stopped. And he says, it's for the greater good, and just leaves Evans in the ring to be shaved by the best friends. And then they celebrate with -1 in the ring. Everyone's happy. My overall for this show is a 3.5 out of 5. It was honestly a really solid show. They did exactly what I thought they would for most of it. And yeah, I don't think there was really anything wrong with it. My match of the night, it was the three-way match. Well, it was kind of a quicker match than the other two. They seem to have gotten a lot of story out in that time, and it was really nice to see. My segment of the night goes to Malachi Black. He appears to have moved on from the Nightmare family, and I'm excited to see where he's going to go from this, because I can't really pinpoint exactly where his next challenge will be. My performer of the night, it's Thunder Rosa. She took a lot of chair shots from Jade, and they looked pretty stiff, some of them. And yeah, she took a great beating, and I think it looked awesome tonight. And yeah, that is all for this episode of Walking the Ropes Wrestling Review. Thank you all for dropping in. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications whenever we upload a video. And I'll see you in the next one.